Hello.
I'm Kyle.
And I'm Collie.
Welcome to our channel.
Children's author Laura Ingalls Wilder. This is the barn and the quilt barn. Bert Horton purchased the property in 1923, 12 years before Laura Ingalls Wilder published her classic Little House on the Prairie book. The barn was needed to store the hay for the livestock for the winter. The quilt barn, the pattern hanging on the barn is the same pattern Laura used for her hope chest, called Doves in the Window. The farmhouse was built in the late 1880s. It is similar to the dozen of farmhouses that dotted the prairies in the 1800s and early 1900s. The house has 2 rooms on the first floor, 2 small bedrooms on the second floor. It was heated by a wood stove in each room, and scorch marks are still visible on the floors. Many of the original features remain, including hardwood floors, stovepipe outlets, woodwork, and the narrow stairwell to the upstairs. Plumbing and running water were added in 1960. This is the main house, which is now the store and information center. Laura Ingalls wooden statue. Nice Indian carving. Childhood home of Laura Ingalls Wilder and the birthplace of Carrie Ingalls. Little House on the Prairie, the historic home site. Rutland Township, Montgomery County, Kansas. The Ingalls family arrived here in 1869.
Pushed the white men off of the land, so they went back to their home in Pepin, Wisconsin, all the way back up there. And then a year later, they signed a treaty with the Indians, sending them all down to Oklahoma, and then the land came up, and Charles Ingalls never filed for his land here. He had the opportunity, but he didn't because he was gone all the way to Wisconsin. So for that reason, but they said that the one daughter was born here, and this was the location that Laura Ingalls Wilder wrote about in her book. And the reason they zeroed in on this is because this is the only piece of property in this area that wasn't filed on by the former people that lived here. And they knew he didn't file on because he claimed he didn't. So it shows over here. Here in 1869, they lived in a one-room log cabin till 1871. Baby Carrie was born in the cabin in 1870. This is a replica cabin standing here today, very similar to the cabin that Charles built on this property. He built a barn and dug the hand-dug well, which is behind the farmhouse. It's a perfect location. Pa went to Independence for odd jobs and to bring back supplies. Laura said the Independence was 40 miles from the cabin. In reality, Independence is only 12 miles. Seemed like 40 miles when you're in a wagon and crossing creeks. Their house on the prairie and returned to their old homestead near Pepin, Wisconsin. They left the rope latch outside of the door so the next settler could use the cabin. So of course this wasn't there, but they left that out so they could open the door. But the postal history of the wayside dates back to 1887 when the growing town was established, and that was less than a mile from this location. Original names of the wayside citizens are still visible on the post-office boxes. These same family names now reside at Harrisonville Cemetery, located a half a mile east of the museum.
Sunnyside School was dedicated in 1872 as a one-room schoolhouse with a capacity of 36 students. Some years as many as 50 crowded in. Sharing desk, 18-year-old Lillian Jones, great-grandmother to the owners, arrived in 1901 and rode a horse through pastures and prairie to teach all 8 grades. Her students ranged from 5 to 17 years of age. She made $25 a month for a 4-month term. The school is similar to one that Laura, Mary, and Carrie would have attended had they stayed in Kansas. Bill and Wilma Curtis, the founders of the museum, moved the school to the location in 1976 as a memorial to Lillian Jones Horton and all the teachers of Kansas. It will always be Grandmother's School to the Hortons for generations. Kansas was an endless flatland covered with tall grass blowing in the wind. Day after day they traveled in Kansas and saw nothing but rippling grass and enormous sky. In a perfect circle, the sky covered down to the level land, and the wagon was in the circle's exact middle. Laura Ingalls Wilder. It's a neat little find.
Glad we came.
Obviously, things have been moved, and not everything is completely original.
No, but the thing it's based on this location is where this all happened.
And that's what her books are all about.
Right.
Is this location.
Yeah, this is where There was only enormous empty prairie with grasses blowing in waves of light and shadow across it, and the great blue sky above it, the birds flying up from it and singing with joy because the sun was rising. And on the whole enormous prairie there was no sign that any other human being had ever been there. That was written by Laura Ingalls Wilder.
Well, that was a nice little find. I've seen the signs for a lot of years and never have stopped. So it was kind of fun going and exploring and checking that out. If you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe and comment so we can keep growing. Thanks.